Be a goody two shoes. Dear mini me, in school, don't feel a way about people calling you smart or a goody two shoes, whatever that means. Be proud that you are smart. You are filling yourself with the knowledge that one day you can share with others. Hey everyone, it's Empress Lanice, and right now you are listening to Dear Empress and Friends podcast. Welcome to Dear Empress and Friends, a podcast on how to live life beyond our own limits. And I am your host, Empress Lanice. Today we're going to talk about being a goody two shoes and whatever that means. And we're going to, unfold that on today's episode. So in my book, Dear Empress, You Were Born a Star, I talk about that. So I have always been a goody two. I have always been that perfect person who follows the rules, all the instructions with a little hint of rebelliousness. But for the most part, I've always been a goody two. And with that experience, as far as when it goes to school, I remember when I was I was transferring from private school to public school, and I was going into the 6th grade in a public school. And I remember my guidance counselor at that time was like, you are going to be the valedictorian it might have been 2003, I think, because whatever 8th grade was for me. So they was like, you're most definitely going to be the valedictorian. I was featured in the school's newspaper with the highest GPA. I think it was me and one other student. And I was like killing it. And I was in 6th grade. I was killing it. 7th grade, I want to say around towards the end of 6th or 7th grade or top of 7th grade, that's when things started to shift. And it's so crazy how when you go back to think about who you are today and how just one little thing can impact you and shift the narrative of your life. So I'm that person that could be in any crowd. I could be with the smart people and I could be with, the cool kids. Not saying that they're not smart, but it's like there's kids that just live for knowledge and being in the books. And then there's kids that just want to have fun, a good time. Doesn't mean that they're not smart, but it's just like they prefer to have a good time. So I've always been able to live in both worlds. But one thing was I was always in the world of having a good time, that I actually stopped hanging around the people that were always doing their homework and, doing what they needed to do in school. Like they were advancing further than me, where at the time we were actually advancing together. So I started hanging around people that, they're good people. They were, fun. They always looked out. But they used to make fun of me. Like, you're always like in your books, you're always smart. And so I took it as a bad thing. I took it as like, oh, I'm not cool enough. So it's not that I didn't care for education. I actually loved learning. But I just started shifting my narrative. I just was like, oh, I don't want to do this no more. Like, I just want to, and I did enough to get by because I still had parents that was on top of me, but I did enough to just get by. But the thing was, my parents wasn't also so like strict either. So like they were strict, but not as strict as most other cultures may have. So I was just now went from the highest GPA to now just making it by. And honestly, I have been living my life in that way of just making it by. But what I found out was that the people that were making fun of me, they were smart too. And like I mentioned earlier, like I know that they were smart, but it's like as a younger kid, I took, smart and being cool as two different things. And they were getting straight A's. They were doing very well, excellent in school. They were just, a little bit mischievous. And but I didn't know that, right? So I started shifting, and this is in my mind. Doesn't mean necessarily it was intentional for them to do that. Like I chose to do that. I didn't know better. So throughout my life, I've been a B and C student. I stopped being an A student because I started caring about what other people would say, think about me. And I've lived my life in that way. There's so many experiences that I've had in life where I shifted it because somebody, made fun of me. I am thankful that I have outgrown that. And that shifted when I was in, it was 2009, I think. 2009. I went through some experiences, which I'm going to tell y'all later in the podcast. But I went through some experiences, and because I dropped out of college, my GPA straight from high school going to my first semester of college, I had a 1.6 GPA. Like that was horrible. I was barely going to school because I didn't want to go to school. When I did show up, I was like doing horribly, but I knew that I could do so much better. So I did. I think I took a year or maybe one semester off, and I had to have been like maybe one semester off, because I went right back to school in I think 2010. I think it was 2010 or maybe the end of 2009. I went back to school, and that's when I went to get my associate's degree because I'm like, I'm not going out like this. And I got back to my A's. I focused, I studied, I did all that I needed to do, and I started excelling again. And then after that, I just started getting this bug of just excelling. Like it's like now I started trying to overdo all the things that I was doing as a teenager. Because I was like, I'm no longer going to be a C and a B student. I'm going to excel. So that's where the birth of me becoming an entrepreneur even came, because I was excelling in school, and I was like, I'm going to start my own business because I was so confident. I was like, I got this. I could do this. Worked for a few internships. They was using some of my work. I was like, oh, if they're using it, then I must be really good. Like I was in my bag. However, what I realized is that sometimes we can be so influenced by our environment, and that sometimes we don't know why we're doing certain things. And we still do this as an adult. And I realized that you have to be very conscious of why you're doing something. So true story, as far as like it being influenced. So before, if you guys seen the promo, I had my curly hair. So someone was like, oh, you look like Rick James. And what's funny, they don't even know. I don't even think I told them this. I was like, I felt the same way when I first saw it. I had my mom do my hair. It didn't come out, the way that I really wanted it. But it was still doable. I made it work, and I still looked cute. So this one particular person was making fun of me, cracking up. And I was okay with it because I already got established with myself. Like, yeah, I do look like Rick James, and I'm cool with that. But what was interesting is just seeing everyone else's reaction to that, because I ended up taking my hair out, and now you see I have the short bob again. And so the way that people reacted, or at least like a few people was like, so why did you take out your hair? Or I personally, I didn't ask them this, but I personally felt like they thought that I was influenced by this person of taking out, because they were making fun of me that I took out my hair. I actually have plans to do a photo shoot, and I wanted the shortcut before I head out on this trip that I'm about to go on. So that's why I changed it. But I can see how it may look like I changed it because of someone else's influence. And a lot of times there are people that do go through that, where if somebody makes a joke, makes a comment, that people will go to the drastic strengths of of changing because of what somebody said. So like, that's how I was when I was younger. Like I would change even how I dress, like, because I saw on, whether if it's on TV or my friends dressing a certain way and getting all this attention, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast as well, is that I felt like I needed to do that too. But now that I'm much older, I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that anymore. Like thank God, I'm so thankful. As much as I go on my ups and down roller coasters about my emotions to be about other stuff, I'm so thankful that I am confident in myself, that I believe in myself, that I don't feel like I need to change myself for anyone else. If anything, I'm changing myself for me. And like, that's the one thing that I feel so joyful about, because for a very long time, I have always shifted myself for somebody else. Now I'm shifting myself for me. And it feels good to be able to do that, which sometimes I guess when I go through my moods, like, because there's still different areas in my life that I'm still working on, which I'll share with you guys eventually, that I can get caught up in, whatever story or narrative that I create, right? Because a lot of times it's we creating our own narrative, it's we creating our own story, or what we think other people are thinking about us, which most of the time it may not be true. And if it is true, so what? Who cares? As long as you're happy with getting straight A's, as long as you're happy accomplishing the goals that you want to accomplish, as long as you're happy with doing whatever you want to achieve, then do that. Like, even for another example, I've always wanted to be a singer, dancer, actor. I felt like I was a superstar, triple threat. And I created this narrative at a very young age, and I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know if something happened that I may not remember, but I started creating this narrative that I wasn't good enough. And I guess because like I would always sing, dance and stuff around my close friends, that sometimes you get annoyed about certain stuff when you're trying to do something else, right? So I think I probably took those things to heart and felt like I wasn't good enough. But then I would hear them, somebody say like, oh, who knows how to rap? Who knows how to dance? Who knows how to this? They would always say, Jess knows how to do it, or Empress knows how to do it. But I guess I just created this narrative in my own head that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't perfect, that I stopped myself from being an entertainer, where now the roles became where I was managing entertainers or providing services for entertainers, that I was pushing them hard as if I wish somebody else had pushed hard for me. But honestly, the thing that stopped me was me. So, which is why in 2018, I released my song called Watch Me Work, which I wrote. I didn't sing it though. I am working on still a project for where I'll actually be singing and you'll hear me vocally. But I was fortunate to have one of my friends record the song for me, use her voice, but it was my lyrics. And it became a really dope song. Like, it's still being played to this day. I'm actually generating income from that song, from that one song. So I thought that it was dope that, I broke out of that shell, even though it was later in life. So, and which is what my book talks about too, is that, it's just never too late. It's never too late to do whatever it is that you want to do. And that's what I want to encourage you all to remember. Like, it's never too late. So be that goody two that you are, whatever that looks like for you. My story is a little bit different, but I'm sure you have a story for yourself of where you're being a goody two in a certain space, or being influenced really by others for you to do, whether if it's good or bad, because maybe you were a good student and then you were influenced to be a bad student, or a good son, a good daughter, a good husband, a good wife, whatever the case may be, and then you went the other side. It happens, right? We can be easily influenced because we do care what other people say and think. But the one thing is, do we care what we say and think about ourselves, and be confident and loving of that person, of who we choose to be? We have a choice. We have a choice of who we want to be, who we become, who we are. And we can show up like that. It's just really us shifting our story, our narrative on those things and taking action. So remember to be that goody two-shoe that you are, and whatever that looks like for you. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to Dear Empress and Friends podcast on how to live life beyond our own limits. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite streaming platform. Also, don't forget to get a copy of my book, Dear Empress, You Were Born a Star, that's out now. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Empress Lanice. Peace.